What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Brentford 1, Manchester United 3. We're celebrating a 3 points on the full view. It's very nice. It's very nice indeed. 3 points in the Premier League, 3 points away from home. A bit of a Jekyll and Hyde performance, must be said. First half, don't really want to talk about it. Second half, we can talk all day about it. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Joined by DJ and James. DJ, how are you doing? How did you find that game?
I'm good, thank you. I thought that game was sort of like we saw the good, bad, and the ugly from Manchester United. But overall, needed to do what we did. And, there was a couple of performances I was pleased about. But still, and call us Mr. Negatives, but there were still some things that worried me. But overall, happy. Just happy, aren't I? Like it's good to be on here after a win. You know what I mean? So we did.
You say that. I don't want to be negative, but I'm happy.
Yeah, you know what it was? It's just like this United team to win me over fully. They've got to pull up some trees end of the season. I don't see it happening, but we just did what we needed to do.
Exactly. James, first of all, how's the fire alarm doing? Is that all right? Is that all fixed?
Wait. Yeah, I think it's good, mate.
We're good. We're good. We're fixed. How'd you find the game?
Good, mate. Yeah, obviously, like DJ touched on, it wasn't all perfect. It wasn't all a bed of roses, but I'm not going to write a love song about this United team anytime soon. But the win's the most important thing, mate. Honestly, 3 points is what we needed, and they're a good team as well. So I'm sure we'll get into it. But yeah, happy as can be tonight.
Exactly. I think it's about almost managing expectations because I think most people, Flex said before the game, I'm worried. I think a lot of people said, I'm worried. I think we said that before every Man United game. Every time DJ messages me before a game, he'll ask me for a prediction. I don't know. I don't know, DJ. I'm not going to answer to you. So I think we'll look, any 3 points at the moment we'll take, as Ralph Rangnick said. It's about results. It's about getting points on the board. And that's exactly what we've done today. I'll start off with you, DJ. Why do you think there is such this disparity between a really poor first half? I mean, I talked to KG at halftime, and you were on the phone as well at halftime, and we were just almost at a bit of a loss as to where do you even go? Because it's just the same. And then you come out second half, and I don't want to say it's like we're playing like prime Barcelona under Pep because we weren't, but there is a significant improvement. Why? How? Explain that.
Well, I'll have to put that solely at the feet of the manager. I think once the manager saw kind of how the first half played out, managed to get his hands on them kind of thing in the dressing room. Rangnick doesn't seem like the type of manager that's going to mince his words, and he probably told them to fix up with a few explicitives in there as well. Because to be fair, the first half was a bit flat, wasn't good enough. And I think we were just off the boil a bit in terms of energy, and that's been a common theme since he's taken over. Been really slow to get out of the blocks, really slow to get into tackles to win the first ball, the second ball. And we could see that Brentford was being really aggressive and really pushing us and pressuring us. And I wouldn't say we got bullied in the first half, but they really made it difficult for us. Rangnick spoke about control in the last couple of games, and I think we needed to do that more than ever against this rash sort of Brentford side that were flying at us. So I think once the players went in for the first half, Rangnick obviously and his staff would have obviously seen the game, realised kind of where we needed to sort of improve. And I think he laid into them. I really do think he laid into them, because from minute one of the second half, we looked like a completely different team. There was energy. Players were closing down Brentford, and we were winning the ball, and we're trying to move the ball with a bit of urgency. And I think that's key. I think once United move the ball with urgency and get it into sort of our attacking players, you get Bruno higher up the pitch, then we start seeing results. We do start seeing assists and goals. So, I think Rangnick was the reason why.
Would you agree with that, James? Would you put a lot of praise on the manager for the real uptick in performance, second half, tempo, energy, all that kind of stuff? Or would you just say that's just typical of Manchester United as well, in the sense that we play in moments so you never really know what you're going to get?
It's probably a bit of both, to be honest, mate. But at the end of the day, like, the thing with this fan base is if you're gonna critique the manager for not changing it at 2-0 up against Aston Villa and letting them back in the game, then you have to praise the manager for completely changing it at halftime today and going on and getting the win. So you can't just critique the manager for one thing when it goes bad, but then not praise him when it goes good. I think, like DJ said, the second half performance was completely different. much more energy, much better tempo. We kept it simple, like I'm sure we'll touch on players later on, but Bruno kept it a lot more simple, which me and Cam were asking him to do after the last game. Wasn't many like Hail Mary passes. It was pass and move, pass and move. The only time he tried something stupid was the last minute when he probably should have scored. Like apart from that, he was very calm and assured as captain. Yeah, we were just very good. As I said, loads more energy second half. First half, they were very combative. They were excellent. They won first balls, second balls. They were all over us. We were trying to like pause for a minute and then look for a pass. We didn't have any time. There was 3 or 4 Brentford players on us all the time. De Gea was our man of the match in the first half by far, kept us in the game, like he's done probably for the last 8 years on and off. And then obviously after half time, it all changed and it was all good from then. And you've got to credit the manager for that.
I think you mentioned De Gea there. You sympathise with him, don't you? Because I mean, he was, again, like he always is, and this isn't just goalkeepers union. He was unbelievable first half, save after save after save, keeps us in the game. And you wanted the clean sheet towards the end just for him, didn't you? Because that will be the thing that, if you're going to look at any disappointments coming out of the game, that's probably the only one, wouldn't it? Is that we were 3-0 up, and if we'd have kept a clean sheet, it wouldn't have been complete because you have to look at that first half, but it would have been like, that's a proper step in the right direction. And the result is anyway, 3 goals. Certainly, again, much more threatening second half, much more energy, certainly more clinical and creative second half. So I think you're right. I think you do have to credit the manager for that. I think it's a good point that you touched on as well there, James, is that one of the big criticisms after the Villa game was that we were 2-0 up and Rangnick made the subs late, right? He didn't make the subs, or he was too reactive late on. And by then, they were already back in the game. This time, we're 2-0 up. He goes, right, we're switching to 5 at the back. Maguire's coming on. Ronaldo's coming off. Rashford's coming on rather. I think he replaced Greenwood, didn't he? And I tweeted out at the time, I credit him because I think that we've seen it maybe past managers not learning from games, not learning from mistakes. And I found that Rangnick did that. But what a lot of people are talking about, DJ, and this is my long-winded point here, is for a fact the Ronaldo reaction is going to be a story. I saw you tweeting about it as well. My eyes are everywhere. That the camera keeps focusing on him. He's not even sitting on the bench. He's sitting on the steps. He's sort of, throwing his jacket down a little bit. After we scored the third, Rangnick's got his arm sort of, chatting to him. And that's the time to chat to him, by the way. Yeah. When you scored the third, as if to say, just lean over like, told you so, mate.
Told you so, mate.
Let's pipe down. But what did you make of the Ronaldo reaction? Is it something worth looking into, or is this just Cristiano Ronaldo and we should kind of expect it?
Well, I personally wasn't happy with his reaction. Look, I know he's the GOAT. He's sort of like the prodigal son of Manchester United. Great return story, yada, yada, yada. Best footballer in the world, cool. But at the same time, you need to show respect to your manager. Because at the end of the day, if that was Anthony Martial or Paul Pogba doing that, that would be all over Twitter right now. It would be all over BBC. It'd be all over the major news outlets.
But it already is. It already is all over.
Yeah, and this is the thing with Ronaldo. I think he has a responsibility because of how big he is in the game. I'm not saying for him to not be emotional, but I didn't mind him sort of like scowling as he came off. That's just natural. But the rest of it, when he got to the bench, the throwing of the coat, the sitting on the bench, the continuous, just continuously going on in Rangnick's ear and his teammates' ear, it just doesn't look good, especially for those same young players he spoke about last week, about them learning and taking criticism and stuff like that. He needed to respect the manager in that moment. And it's in a stadium full of people for everyone to see. He knows the cameras are going to be on him. I just didn't like his reaction. I think if he's going to be upset, do that behind closed doors. Go and knock on Rangnick's office after the game or next training session or whatever and have your say. I just think he's too big of a player to be doing that, especially at the time when United have been dragged through all social media, dragged through all the headlines, this player, this leak. He should have used his head a little bit and just kind of understood why he came off. He's 36 years of age. He's not going to be able to play 90 minutes every single game. I'm sure he'd like to, but let's just respect your manager. And if you have an issue, deal with it after the game. I just think that it sent a bad message to sort of the younger players because as he comes off, you see Mason Greenwood doesn't even know kind of what's going on. He's talking to whoever else and he looks at Ronaldo and you can see his face. He's like, oh, he's pissed off. Do you know what I mean? And I think it just shows a lack of respect now. quickly before we hand it over to our partner here, I'm just going to say, literally, I just do believe that with players like Ronaldo and Pogba, they come with this, I won't say circus, because I think circus is the wrong word, but they do come with this maintenance. I think that's the best word to say, maintenance. And you are going to get this with Cristiano Ronaldo. He's not like he's not done this before. He's done this at other clubs. He's done this when he's winning games. Do you know what I mean? He's done this when he's losing. So I think it's up to sort of like the Manchester United hierarchy to manage this. And if I was Ralph, I'm calling him in for a one-on-one meeting and letting him know that that's not on.
Super chat from Ray Diaz says, great competitors will always hate to be subbed. If he doesn't hate it, he won't be Ronaldo. No issues with him hating and helps Rangnick power within the club. What do you make of it, James? So it does, from what I've seen already, I think it polarizes people on social media. There is a camp a bit like DJ who was saying that, you know, he should know better. He's experienced. Yes, it's Ronaldo, but he should know better. There's other people, and in fairness, you know, full transparency, I think I lean into the other camp where I'm like, I just don't really care. Like, we won, and that's Cristiano Ronaldo. It kind of comes with the territory. Where do you sit when it comes to the Ronaldo reaction?
I think there's two sides, right? So on the one side, you've got Ronaldo, and he's a winner, right? So he's an absolute born winner. So you know what you're getting with Ronaldo. You know, and his New Year's message, he basically tweeted, he was like, it was a tough year for everyone, but I got 47 goal involvements, so it was all right for me. Like, he's a winner. He always talks about his own achievements, his own personal achievements in footballs, his Ballon d'Ors, his Champions Leagues, everything like that. So that's the Ronaldo side of it. The Rangnick side of it, to be honest, I don't really think, unlike DJ, I don't really think he has a leg to stand on after calling out two players this week. He called out Anthony Martial with a potential misunderstanding. And he's caused a big rift with the whole Paul Pogba thing today, saying that it doesn't matter if he's playing for something elsewhere. So when DJ mentioned that maybe you knock on the manager's door and want to speak about stuff behind closed doors, I think, unfortunately, Ralph Rangnick can't really have a leg to stand on to ask him to do that, because Ralph Rangnick has aired his dirty laundry in public this week. He's taken a firm stance on basically everything. Now, on the petulance thing from Ronaldo, I'm not a massive fan of it in general. I don't think that's the way to display it. But I don't think Rangnick's the person that can come and tell him not to do it with the way he's acted this week.
I think also as well, like, Ronaldo's 36 years of age. He's not going to get out of his game now. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's too late now.
You can't imagine someone like Ralph Rangnick's going to go up to him and go, you need to cut that out or you're not going to be successful. He'd turn around and be like, yes, boss. Sorry? Do I need to count to 800? 1, 2, 3. I can do it all day because that's how many goals I've scored. You know, again, for me, it's Ronaldo. There is, look, Ronaldo. I'm sure, like, we do see a lot of players react like that. Just the camera doesn't stay on them as long because they're not Cristiano Ronaldo. And as soon as Cristiano Ronaldo gets substituted, everyone starts, you know, the murmurs start. They're going, oh, Cristiano Ronaldo's going off. Whoa, whoa. Get the reaction. You can almost hear the director going, tight shot on Cristiano, and just keep it there for the entire rest of the game. I'm with you. Like, I would rather him, you know, sit on the bench, don't sit on the stairwell, don't throw your coat down. But we won. We won. I know it will be a story, but that's Ronaldo. Everything's a story with Cristiano Ronaldo. But I agree with you. I think, you know, if it was other players, I do absolutely think that people may be even more aggressive in like, oh, it's out of order. It's this, that, and the other. That's the double standard, and that's football, unfortunately. Let's move on and talk about Anthony Elanga. Opens the scoring, gets his first goal of the season. Second game that he started, DJ, and he is impressing people. Obviously, Jadon Sancho wasn't in the squad today due to personal reasons. But what did you make of Elanga's performance? And has he got that spot? Left-hand side, that's his right now.
I think he kept it quite basic today. And I think basic is a little bit more of a comfort than we've had on the left with Rashford trying all sorts and it not paying off. I like his attitude. Definitely he has hunger in him, and I think that's what us fans have wanted to see in this United squad within the last few months. He does have a massive turn of pace, like he's really quick when he gets going. And he seems to make sort of the right decisions, especially like he won't take on too much if he can't. He'll pass and look for the pass. I thought he had a steady game, and you know what? He actually is now chipping in with goals. He likes to kind of get in the box. I've seen him at the end of last season do the same thing. So I was impressed. I think there's more to come from him. I think he needs to get to know some of the players a little bit more, so he can start working those patterns of play and etc. and all of that good stuff. But yeah, I was fairly impressed, man. I hope to see him again in the next game.
I was going to say, do you think he starts against West Ham?
I think he does. Keep it the same. There's no point. Like one thing I do want with this United team is literally I just want us to be able to have players that play well can keep their place. Obviously, for the odd game, if it's tactical, yeah, make your changes and stuff. But if a player's warranted a start, give him the start because he deserves it, and he played well. So I don't think we should change it.
Super chat from Ray Diaz says, don't like Ronaldo drama on camera because I wanted to see if Maguire would try for the armband. Sent I'm the captain gift to my United text chain. I don't think Maguire got the captain armband when it came out. I think it stayed on Bruno, didn't it? Or did Maguire get it back? I wasn't paying that much attention.
I didn't pay attention.
No, I thought it stayed with Bruno.
It's one of those things. It's one of those things like, I know like people, because I saw like KG was going, oh, and I'm like, I really don't care. Like, I will take the win. I will take the win. James, what did you think of Elanga? As mentioned, second start in the row. Obviously, Rangnick likes him. Even before he started these two games, he mentioned several times how he was impressed with training with him. We've heard those reports. Obviously, he's got a lot of faith in him. As I mentioned to DJ, do you reckon that left-hand spot is his now going forward?
I'm with DJ. I think you keep a winning team. So as far as West Ham on Saturday goes, I'd keep him in the team without a shadow of a doubt. I did a fan cam a couple of weeks ago, and I think the title was like Elanga impressive or Elanga something. And again, loads of comments like, "Oh, don't hype him up, don't big him up," kind of thing. And I'm like, well, I'm a United fan. He's a youth prospect. Like I'm going to big him up a little bit because I want to support our youth players. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm just going to I want him to do well. So I want him to play in the team. I thought he was like a 7 out of 10 today. I thought he took his goal very, very well. Very well. I was really happy to see the reverse ball from Fred. I thought that was a superb pass for the goal. Absolutely superb. And people give him a lot of stick, and I don't think it was his best game today. But I tell you what, he gets a lot of assists under Rangnick, and a lot of it comes from winning the ball higher up because he presses high up. I think that's like 4 or 5 assists and a goal he's got under Rangnick now. He won a penalty. He's got a couple of assists. Like he's a big player, and we miss him a lot. Did we miss him against Wolves? And we weren't combative in the midfield at all. Like I just think he's a big player for us. But as far as Elanga goes, I liked his confidence. I like the fact that when things didn't come off, he tried them again, and he didn't let it get to him. Second half was much better than first half. His goal was superb, and yeah, keep him on that left hand side. I'm loving his performances.
Absolutely, I agree. I think that it's refreshing because I think every time a youth player or an academy player or anyone come from the under-23s or on the periphery of the squad comes in and does well, I think it just opens the eyes of anyone who's in charge on the coaching staff as to like, oh, actually, maybe the gap isn't that big, and maybe we should actually be giving these people more opportunities. Because sometimes when you put youngsters in, and a bit like the young boys game, where you're not completely set alight, no one completely stands out, you kind of, sometimes you see a manager sort of go, actually, you know what, I'll just stick with the experienced guys. Maybe it's too much. But when you do see someone break through, next thing you're like, oh, okay, actually, you know what? We have got a couple of promising people in the academy, and maybe they're out on loan, but next season, absolutely, they can come in. So I think it's really positive. I do. Lil Yo-Yo says, Owen in 40 years equals Owen Rangnick. To be honest, you know what? I'd take it. Have you seen the hair that he's kept? I mean, he's an older gentleman. Like, he's in his 60s. Yeah. He's got great head of hair. He looks in good, decent shape. He's probably in better shape than me right now. I get out of breath going upstairs. He's pacing in the touchline, all that kind of stuff. Well, I'll take it. That's Lil Yo-Yo. That's a compliment. Owen Rangnick. We called RB Owen Rangnick. There's a lot of like this German sort of theme I've got going on. I said that we sort of discussed that we were going to save this. I said I was going to say Thomas Frank's salty comments. And just before I was going to tell these guys, right before we went live, James went, no, save it. And he's absolutely right. So this is what Thomas Frank has said after the game. This is your initial reaction. They, referring to Manchester United, are unbelievably lucky. I know all the crap about taking chances. They changed the system against little Brentford. DJ, what do you make of that?
Listen, kind of goes in one ear and out the other. Passionate individual, but at the end of the day, that's what you're supposed to do. If the game isn't really going your way, you're going to change things, you're going to adapt and try and overcome. And that's what we did. So, yeah, he's just crying over spilt milk, whatever.
James, what do you make of that one? Salty?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very salty, mate. Very, very salty. I mean, Man United are a giant click, right? So you mentioned Man United. You're going to be in a headline tomorrow. He'll probably be in the Brentford Gazette or whatever tomorrow morning, and like he'll be going viral on Twitter or something. It's just a very salty comment. At the end of the day, like if you've got a very good football team, like we all know, City and Liverpool don't really change the way they play when they come up against different opposition. They trust their players to know their system, and they trust that system in beating or being good enough to beat whatever is put in front of them, right? It's fallen up short a couple of times. City used to play Leicester, let Leicester hit them on the break, beat them a couple of times. So it can be quite naive, but we're at the stage where we don't have a team that's overpowering. We don't have a team that's going to dominate every game. So it would be really dumb and naive of Rangnick to not change formation depending on opposition. He's just basically praising the tactical nous of our manager in a salty way. I love it.
Yeah, I saw that. I know it's trying to sort of, I don't know. They had before the game Brentford were in their little team huddle and they were giving it like rah rah rah, come on guys, we're the best and all this kind of stuff. And they're trying to sort of generate that kind of, I don't know, atmosphere of like, we're little Brentford, but we're plucky and we're fighting against everyone in the Premier League and that. But like it's in the sentence, you're a Premier League club. And everyone, including Brentford, by the way, before the game goes, it's not easy to come here. People struggle against here. We beat Arsenal. We drew Liverpool. So why wouldn't we change? We're like seventh in the league. Why wouldn't we change? Why wouldn't we give ourselves the best opportunity to win in terms of tactics? I don't know. We'll just stick with a tactics that's not working because it's Brentford. The disrespect that would be to Brentford. He's kind of owned himself actually in it. Sort of going, oh, they changed for us. They shouldn't because we're shit. Like, no, don't say that. It's one of those comments. I think it's one of those things, isn't it? Like managers come out, blame everyone but their own team sort of thing. Whatever. Scott McTominay went off with an injury, DJ, but a lot of people have been praising him on social media after that game. A couple of times we spoke about Fred earlier being impressive under Rangnick, but Scott McTominay's also been impressive at times. Obviously, goals against Burnley, played well tonight as well. Dude, it's a difficult one, isn't it, with McFred? Because obviously they get criticised, and obviously every time they start, they trend because people don't like them. And we are looking for a midfielder. It's obvious Ralph Rangnick's looking for a midfielder, but is sometimes the criticism too much? I mean, what did you make of his performance today?
One thing I will say, I don't think the criticism is too much, but what I will say is that he played well. I can't fault him today. I don't think he really put a foot wrong. He's, trying to pass the ball forward more. He played a lovely inside pass for Dallo, who had a really good shot on target, just edge of the box. I thought McTominay was everywhere. He was physical. He was driving forward. He was powerful. And I said it a few weeks ago. I did say these type of physical games he thrives in. The more physical the team is, the more he can show his skill set. I think he struggles more when the game's a little bit more technical in the middle of the park. But overall, good game by McTominay. It'll be interesting to kind of see the diagnosis of the injury. I know it was sort of like a back injury, but hopefully it's nothing too severe, because at this point, and I know he always gets an honorary mention on most shows, looks like Donny van der Beek's career is truly well and done at Manchester United. Can't ever see him getting a game, if I'm being completely honest. I think it's done now. But let's just hope that Scott's back, because who else is there on the bench to really go into the middle of the park and be next to Fred? So I do hope he makes a full recovery, but top game from him.
Is this almost part of the problem with McTominay, James, that, today he was really good. Specifically second half, he was great. But then he could have a game, say, at the weekend where he's just completely off it and, can't even pass the ball 5 yards. Is it this inconsistency that's a problem with Scott McTominay?
I mean, it is, Owen, but aside from David De Gea, can you name anyone in our squad that isn't inconsistent?
Exactly.
It's a big problem in our squad from week to week in general. It is a problem with McTominay. What I will say about him is when he drives forward, he looks very good. And I really do think he looks good going forward. I think he's one of the only people in our team that passes well whilst on the move. I think a lot of people try and stop, look around and then pass. And I think McTominay is good at driving with the ball, laying it off, making the run forward, collecting. I think he was crucial in winning the ball back and then playing the ball through for one of the goals. I think he was very good. He's a player I look for. I look for the name on the team sheet. And that seems strange because obviously people were just calling him the next Darren Fletcher or whatever, but I probably look for Darren Fletcher's name on the team sheet as well. I think we need players in the team that can do a job. And unfortunately, we're not blessed with loads of talent in the midfield. Like when Pogba comes back, you can start having a discussion about different ways of playing, maybe a 3 or a 2 and then a 3 further forward. But McTominay's still in the team for me. And until we sort out that DM problem, He's going to continue to be in the team. The problem is, if you ask him to sit as a 6, his best attributes are going forward. So you're probably coaching the best part of his game out of him if you get him to fit the system we're playing at the moment, which is an issue. So yeah, inconsistent. But today, I mean, I think Keown gave man of the match to Dalot. There's an argument for it being McTominay. I thought he was superb today.
Yeah,
I agree. I was a bit surprised when he said Dalot. I thought Dalot had a good game, but it could have easily gone to, as you mentioned, McTominay, De Gea.
Yeah.
It could have gone to a couple of players. But I agree with you that I think a lot of people have said, haven't they? Just McTominay, he's not a defensive midfielder. He's box to box.
Yep.
He looks far more effective when he's going forward. I think, in fairness to Rangnick, and we have seen it a couple of times, that he does want to have more forward passes. And there have been a couple of times where McTominay does do a forward pass, puts it between the lines, and actually then it looks quite effective. Sometimes the problem is McTominay, going back to consistency, is that sometimes that forward pass just will ping out for a throw in because he's that inconsistent with it. But he is. I mean, I think he gets a lot of criticism. I don't know if it's fully justified. I think there's a lot of pressure on him in that there aren't a lot of options, and you could say Donny van de Beek and the Man United, but obviously the man just made his mind up on both of them. The match too old, and Donny he didn't like. So that basically leaves 2 midfielders. So by just default, you're playing McTominay and Fred. And when they're not having good games, you look at your bench and go, actually, there's no real options here. So what can I do? And McTominay and Fred, to a point, are both having to sort of do 2 jobs, because you're hoping that McTominay is going to be box to box, but he's also got to be kind of a 6 and kind of winning the ball back. And it's just, I think sometimes that's the problem. I mean, make no mistake, could we have better midfielders? Of course we could. That's why we're looking for midfielders as well. But I thought he was very good today, really. And it's going to be interesting because, like DJ said, with the injury, I mean, hopefully he'll be back for the weekend, but we'll have to wait and see. Ugly Bear, what a name that is, says, if fans actually supported Fred and McTominay instead of bashing them, their confidence will grow. Fred should be playing more forward. Interesting. Let's talk about Bruno Fernandes, DJ. Bruno's an interesting one for me because first half, I think it was a very sort of Bruno Fernandes we've seen this season, whereby maybe trying too much and nothing really sort of paying off. I think second half, he looked far more advanced than before. What did you make of his performance? And also, what did you make of that finish he tried at the end of the game? My God.
Man. Bruno. I do think, you know what? Because I was watching him closely, and I think first half, when he was dropping sort of into the midfield between Fred and McTominay, he was literally just dropping deep. I thought, okay, the reason why he's doing that is because we do lack that sort of penetrative pass that goes through the lines. So I think what he does, he drops down into that and then literally plays the ball. But if you really think about it, he's only really trying to hit Ronaldo. I rarely saw him try and hit Greenwood or Elanga. It was literally just Ronaldo. But then once he moves forward and he starts playing just outside the box in that final third, and he keeps it simple, that's when the magic does come. Because even after we scored a couple of goals, then you started seeing him doing the one-touch pass and the link-up play. All I want to say to Bruno is, bro, just do that. Do that as your baseline. Just do that normally. Don't do it after we scored a couple of goals. Just play like that every time. You don't need to force it. And I think that's one of my issues with Bruno. Amazing player, but sometimes he just forces it a bit too much. And second half, again, like the rest of the players, completely sort of turned it around. And you started to see kind of the shades of the old Bruno come back in terms of that sort of excitement factor with assists, and that's what we saw. So really good performance by him. And, I could tell even as a team, once the goals went in, the confidence seemed to come back because we've been devoid of confidence for a long while. So hopefully we could take that into the West Ham game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a simple square ball to Greenwood for the second goal, but that's where Bruno's at his most effective, isn't it? Of just, but also as well, just like you said, keeping it simple. Every assist doesn't need to be cross-field ball, something crazy. It just needs to be 1-2 link up, square across the box. What do you think of Bruno's performance, James? Is it just a case of sometimes, especially if United are maybe too slow, or they're not, making enough, or there isn't enough space, he tries to force it? Is that maybe the biggest problem with Bruno?
I've touched on it before. It's a big problem with Bruno, yeah. I think it's one of these problems with, he's a born winner like Ronaldo is, right? So when he sees things not progressing as he would like, he tries to take too much on himself. He probably looks around the team, thinks McTominay's not going to create, thinks Fred's not going to create, and he sees Rashford having a tough time, sees Greenwood potentially being greedy, and he thinks, I'm going to have to do something myself here. And I've likened it before to saying basically he plays the whole 90 minutes like we're in the 89th minute and 1-0 down, and he's trying to find that Hollywood pass and force it. And that is his biggest weakness. First half, didn't think he was great. Second half, I thought he was superb. I genuinely thought it was Bruno's best performance in the second half for a long time. I think he kept it simple. He was very intelligent. You talk about that assist being simple. That assist is superb because it shows where his head's at. Like, he could have thought that, I'm in a bit of a rut. I've not scored or assisted for a while. Like, I'm going to take this on myself. Let's flip it round. If that's Greenwood, is he squaring it to Bruno?
Greenwood would have, Greenwood would have taken the shot.
Let's flip it round. There's 99.9% chance that Greenwood is not squaring that to Bruno on his left or right foot. So it was a very intelligent assist. He played it at the right time. He was onside, and his celebration for the goal was important as well. You could see how much it meant to him. I thought he was very good. So yes, what you talk about can make him is a weakness for him, but at the same time, when he does keep it simple, he's a hell of a player to have in our team. A hell of a player.
Lil Yo-Yo says, just like Fernandes, Bruno was dropping too deep. I think that's probably fair in the first half. Certainly second half, he pushed way up, got more involved. Another quote from Thomas Frank here. And again, talk about this continues with being solid. But this one's quite serious, I suppose. He says, quote, they didn't have a chance before their first goal, which, by the way, it's okay. But we scored the first chance, which was a goal. I mean, it's kind of how football works, in fairness, Frank. But okay. But then he says that's why they paid 72 million for Sancho, who wasn't in the team. Now, obviously, everyone knows Sancho wasn't in the team because he was attending a funeral. Now, obviously, maybe Thomas Frank doesn't know that, but I'm just a bit floored, how furious he is, coming out after the game. And there's no way as well that he doesn't come out and apologize after he realizes why Jadon Sancho wasn't in the side. Yeah. By the way, he has to, and let's just chalk that up to he doesn't know. This is an interesting one. We talked about Cristiano Ronaldo earlier, DJ, and as always on the Match Reaction, we can actually look at the manager's comments after the game. So this is what Ralph Rangnick has said when it came to Cristiano Ronaldo's reaction after coming off. He said, quote, he, being Ronaldo, said, why me? Why did you take me off? I said, sounds really dramatic, doesn't it? Why me? Why me? He said, why me? Why did you take me off? I said I had to take the decision for the team, for the club. Maybe in a few years when he is a coach, he will understand. DJ, what do you make of that?
I mean, I guess there was more to the conversation, but Ralph's not going to share that. But I think
that's a lot anyway. I think the last sentence is very... Maybe in a few years you'll understand. You say that to your kids, don't you?
Yeah,
understand this right now.
Bit patronizing.
Yeah, but you know what? At the end of the day, I'm glad, innit? Ralph's just got to pull rank. He's the manager at the end of the day. And I've always been a fan like that. The manager is the biggest person there. No player is bigger than the manager. And if the manager says you're coming off because you're 36 years of age, because we've got an important game against West Ham, right? Then so be it. Ronaldo can't complain about his game time. he can't complain about his game time this season. He's played near enough every game, and he's probably been a sub only a handful of times. So yeah, I just think that Ralph's probably just diffusing it really quickly. Nice little end to it. Yeah, I just told him when he just made a little light-heart joke of it or whatever. But I do believe that maybe there'll be some meetings behind closed doors after that, because I don't think Ralph he doesn't seem to be the type that likes to be embarrassed. And he's a good speaker, so he had to kind of, think of something on the feet for the reporters. But yeah, man, I just didn't like to see it. Doesn't matter if it's coming from Ronaldo or even if it's Jesse Lingard. I just don't give a toss. I just don't think he should be doing that. But yeah.
James, what do you think about that comment by Rangnick? Him basically saying, I said to Ronaldo, it's for the team, it's for the club. But what do you think about that last bit there? Or maybe you'd understand it in a couple of years when he's a coach. Because if I recall correctly, it's kind of something a bit similar to almost, I guess, what Ronaldo was saying in his interview about, young people, they're kind of different. They don't really understand all this kind of stuff. What do you make of that comment by Rangnick?
Yeah, all this younger generation, they don't understand, right? And then he kind of backed out.
Every generation's picking on each other.
yeah, he literally, and then he backed out of it by saying, "Oh, but I'm talking about my kids. I'm not talking about Greenwood and Rashford. Yeah. I'm talking about my kids." Yeah, I think it's a little patronising, but like DJ said, he's the manager, so at the end of the day, what he says goes. It was for the good of the team. It was proven. I think the reason Ronaldo was so upset, Ronaldo's a stat padder, right? He has been his whole life. He's all about stats. He's all about his legacy, what he leaves behind. That's what he's about. He's about being the best player of all time. He saw, like, he's been in a United team that haven't created many chances all season. He saw a second half where Brentford were chasing the game and we were going to create chances. He saw himself getting on the score sheet 1 or 2 times if he was left on for the rest of that game. So he, from a selfish point of view, probably wanted to up his own goal tally. I think if when he looks back, he will appreciate it's for the good of the team. I think he'll probably realise that a goal was more important for Marcus Rashford's confidence than it is for Cristiano Ronaldo's confidence, which doesn't need boosting, to be honest. I'm pretty sure he's full of himself enough as it is. So yeah, it was for the benefit of the team, and eventually he will see that. But little patronising from Rangnick, just a little bit.
Just a smidge.
Just a
Pablo
smidge.
says he's putting people back in the box. It's exactly what our team needs. Flexing. Yeah, I think that, like, again, I think also Ralph probably realizes that given the whole Martial situation, he probably needs to be careful in the exact words that he uses when he's talking to the media as well. Again, I just saw it as Ralph just looking at it purely from a tactical point of view of we were 2-0 up against Villa, didn't make subs quick enough. Maybe that was on me. Plus, that was Ronaldo's first game back in 2 games because he was injured with the whole hip thing. So why wouldn't you come off a little bit earlier? Because we want you to play against West Ham at the weekend. And that's exactly what Rangnick says after the game. He said, quote, "It's normal. Ronaldo is a striker. He wants to score goals. He's just come back from injury. We were 2-0 up, the same result as Villa Park. And I wanted us to be more solid this time." So that's literally what it is. Just him saying, just didn't want us to drop points. Sorry. And let's face it, if he kept Ronaldo on and Ronaldo didn't score any goals and it ends up 3-3, who's getting the blame? I don't think many people are going to go that much in on Cristiano Ronaldo. They'll be like, Ralph Rangnick, you did it again. Why didn't you do that this time? So
I don't even think he did that much in this game. He did like little flashes here and there, but he wasn't really doing much. It's not like he hit the bar a couple of times.
He did the chest thing, didn't he, for the second goal?
Okay. Yeah.
Hit the bar with a header and then did the chest thing. He had 2 moments in the game, really. Apart from that, he didn't really do much, did he?
Yeah. At 90 minutes,
exactly.
2 moments, and you're Cristiano Ronaldo, I expect a little more. Just a little bit more. But it doesn't work staying on. I'm a Ronaldo fan, trust me.
Yeah. DJ loves it. Ralph Rangnick said before the game, and we saw this during the game, that he's basically settled now that the formation is going to be the 4-3-3. 4-2-2's gone. 4-2-3-1 is gone. So we saw 4-3-3. Apparently we saw it. He said that we played that against Villa. I debate that massively. But nevertheless, he says that that's what they played against Villa and that's what we're going to play going forward. Is that the formation for us, do you think, DJ, going forward? Or is it, because it's a 4-3-3, but it's a wide 4-3-3, especially up front. Like Ronaldo is still, or the striker is still very isolated. So is that the formation for us going forward, or do we still need to have a little bit tweaked with that?
I think we'll tweak it whenever we can until we get the right personnel in. However, I was saying a while ago that the team that Solskjaer was trying to build would have been a 4-3-3 team. That's the team. These players that have all been bought, they were bought to play in the 4-3-3 anyways. And I think the missing piece of that would be a proper good quality number 6. And then I think you'd see this 4-3-3 sort of like evolve and get better with time. It's kind of good that he's decided to go to what best fits the players. However, I'm not going to lie, I was a fan of the 4-2-2 because if played correctly, I think, and with the right players, and that's where I think he kind of looked and said, actually, you know what? I don't actually have the right players for the system I want to play. So what's the best system? Either a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3. I'm more of a 4-3-3 type of guy, I should say. And I think it just best suits the players that we have.
Yeah, well, James, what do you think of the 4-3-3? Because I see some people in the chat saying at times it was almost like a 4-1-4-1 at times, or a 4-4-1-1 at times. What do you make of that for us going forward? And as DJ mentioned, do we still need to tweak it a bit more?
I think it's going to be needed to tweak from game to game, and also in-game management from Ralph, depending on who we're playing. And also the 4-3-3 can be 2 things, right? So it can be basically 2 6s and an 8, or it can be 1 6 and 2 8s. For the time being, it kind of has to be 2 6s and an 8 because we've not got 1 6 that's good enough to hold. unless you play Matic, but we've seen his legs aren't really there. So all the good, really good 4-3-3s that have one number 6, it's a destroyer, right? It was a Fernandinho, it was a Kante back in the day, like they all, or it was a Makalele. They all have one player that's able to command and do that job. Rodri at City, for example. When Tuchel first came in, I think he had 2 in there. I think he played Jorginho and Kante until he figured out that he can just play one and then go a bit more offensive. We really need a destroyer in the 6, so that would be my choice for a signing if we ever make one. And then you've got the other 2 choices. Basically, one of the spots is Fernandez's, I guess, or Pogba's, and the other spot is McTominay or Fred's at the moment. You can argue that they can be replaced, but the other spot is the one that I want replaced first of all. So you have your 6, and then you have your 2 8s as Fernandez / Pogba / Fred / McTominay. Pick any 2 from 4. But yeah, I do see it as a effective formation. I think Sancho fits perfectly into that formation as well, out on the wing when he's like back with confidence. I think when DJ alluded to earlier the fact that that's what we were trying to play under Ollie, I've always said that I thought he was moulding it for Greenwood or Rashford on one side, Sancho on the other side, and then Cavani, Ronaldo, or even Rashford or Greenwood up top. But obviously the signing of Ronaldo changed that, right? I'm not going to get into whether it was good or bad. People have their opinions on that. But that's basically what we were heading towards at the start of the season, and that kind of got thrown out the window when you get the chance to sign the GOAT for $2.5 million a year.
Yeah, I was just gonna just say, and sorry, and I was just gonna say about the
go ahead.
4-3-3 was that I think the best 3-man midfield that we had in a long time was the Matic, Pogba, Herrera sort of trifecta, because, and I think if somehow we can make a newer version of that, because each of their skills literally complemented each other. You had Matic, who was obviously a few more years younger, can play passes forward, can control games, was literally sometimes a man amongst boys in the middle of the field. And then you had Pogba, who could give you all of this lovely range of passing, creative spark. And then you had Herrera, who could do a little bit of everything. He was box to box. He could play the ball forward, very technical. I just wish that we could build literally a midfield like that, but obviously an improved version, because I think that was our best balance that we've had.
But do you not think that McTominay... Sorry.
No, go ahead, James.
I was just going to say, because you've still got the Pogba, right? And then I would say your McTominay replaces your Herrera role. So it's your Matic role that needs replacing. And unfortunately, Matic isn't 3 years younger anymore. So that's the role that's crucial. Like, we can talk about replacing Fred or McTominay, but they can fit in the Herrera role. It's the other role that we don't have any specialists at the club.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, I said, where do you think Pogba then fits into that, DJ? Because you mentioned Pogba was part of it. Now, who knows where he's going to be, obviously, in the future? But we know he's back training, so he's going to be playing games. I think Rangnick said after the international break. But in this 4-3-3, then where does Pogba fit into it?
It depends. I think Rangnick comes across to me so when he came with the 4-2-2, he seemed very insistent on attacking in the transitional moments really quickly. For me, then, I think it would just depend on the opponent. So, as James was saying, like, you can have sort of like 2 8s and then a 6, or you can have 2 6s and an 8. So it just depends depends on our opponent. I think maybe the lesser opponents, he will trial maybe the 1-6 with Fernandez and Pogba, which I think which with a run of games, we could see how well that does. However, I think in the really big, crucial games where we're going up against really good players in the midfield, I think he'd opt to have 2 6s and just 1 8 or a 10/8, whatever. So, yeah, it just depends. I think Pogba could fit into it. It just depends on the opponents.
Yeah, James, where do you think Pogba fits into that? I mean, does he? Are we already looking for life after Paul Pogba with this 4-3-3?
I think Rangnick is probably resigned to the fact that even if Rangnick isn't here after 6 months, Pogba definitely won't be here after 6 months. So whatever we're doing for the rest of the season, I don't think Pogba's part of the plans for next season, to be honest. However, we're in the business of winning games this season and winning football matches, and Paul Pogba at his best is probably in our best 11. So he needs to figure out a way to get him in the team. I think he plays as one of the 2 8s. He either rotates with Fernandez if we're playing 1 8, or if we're playing 2 8s, he can play with a Fernandez or a McTominay or a Fred as one of those 2 8s. But I think when we're playing 2-6s, he doesn't get in the team. So against like your Cities, Liverpool, Spurses, Arsenals, Chelsea's, etc., I don't think he gets in the team. As much as he is a game winner, I don't think he's not disciplined enough. We saw that in the Europa League and the Champions League recently. He's nowhere near disciplined enough to play in those big games, unfortunately.
I think, to be honest, as well, like you say, like if it's, he can rotate with Bruno or whatever. I don't think that's a bad thing as well, because there absolutely are games where Bruno's just not on it. Like, and if there are games where he's not on it, if you can just bring on Pogba, he might be on it that day, and it offers us something different. I mean, we're talking about getting things from the bench, and that's one of my frustrations when you look at people talk about Man City. They have big players on the bench every single game, and they manage to manage those personalities, don't they? So I think you're right. I think Man United certainly have resigned themselves that he's gone, basically. I mean, even Rangnick himself said it. He can play well in the next 6 months. He might get himself a good club, basically, which I was surprised that he said, basically coming out and just saying, like, yeah, he's attracting clubs. So if play well, you might get a good one, sort of thing. I was like, wow, Ralph, you really don't care. Speaking of people that was on the bench, came off today, onto the pitch rather, was Marcus Rashford. We'll start off with you, James. You touched on it earlier, that it was really important for him to get his goal. We spoke about Rashford a couple of times recently saying, you know what, he just needs a bit of time out to the team. And is this the perfect example of we've actually managed this quite well? He wasn't playing well. Go on the bench, then you come on when we're 2-0 up and you get the third goal. Is that, you couldn't ask for much more than that, could you?
No, mate. I think I'm not saying the situation's fixed, but it's exactly what he needed. I was in Old Trafford for the Wolves game, and it was so hard to see. It was a really, really toxic atmosphere. Like him getting jeered when he finally got taken off. His head dropped. He looked like he was almost crying on the bench. Like he needed to be taken out of the spotlight, right? And I think we actually did that well, taking him out of the team. Like, as I've said numerous times, like Rashford lives like half a mile from my house. Like the guy's living my dream growing up. Like, and no one wants him to succeed more than me. Like no one wants him to turn it round and be like United's number 9 for the next 10 years more than I do. But the problem comes when even fans like me, who like idolise him, are starting to turn slightly because you're realising his performances aren't good enough. Then it's like, then there's an issue, because clearly, like if I want to back him as much as anyone, probably more than anyone, if I can see faults in his game and major faults in his game, then obviously there's an issue. Crisis of confidence, clearly. As I've said before, I think he needs to have a chat with Sasha Lenz, like the sports psychiatrist. I think he needs to get that confidence back, that winning mentality back. Because we all know when Rashford burst onto the scene, me and Cam likened it to Elanga's performance the other night. Like he was just like a breath of fresh air, burst onto the scene, loads of pace, loads of trickery, loads of skill, scored a double in both his first 2 games, and he was superb. And he's been good for a few seasons. So people saying that Rashford, like, oh, he's not Man United quality, he can't do this. The kid's 24. Like, I'm not saying he's like a kid, but he's not even at his peak for a striker, like in terms of age. So writing him off already is absolutely crazy for anyone that's doing that. Like, it's just clearly it's a confidence issue. Whether he will get back to the levels he was at, well, that's up for debate. But saying he can't get back to those levels is a bit crazy in my books. And I'm sure I'll get hate for that, but I think it's a bit crazy.
No, I mean, you'll back your players, right? Back your players, back your
always.
players. You have to. DJ, yeah, because we haven't spoken for a little while. So what have you made about the recent Rashford sort of situation, his form, and how important was it for him today to come on and get that goal?
So yeah, with Rashford, I've kind of been in the thought process that maybe we've seen the best of him, and I think maybe this might be his ceiling, but and that might sound really negative, me sort of not writing him off, but just saying that this is
negative Mr. Positive tonight, mate. That's what it is.
I'm just a living oxymoron, aren't I? But he literally is sort of like, I do feel that we'd seen the best of him in terms of, you know, some of his past performances over the years. And yeah, and James is right. He has massive holes in his game. However, it was really, really good to see him get a goal today. He took the goal well, to be fair, because, you know, for someone low on confidence, when you throw a goal like that, you know, you might overthink it. And he just simply put it into to the top of the net, and that'll be good for him. And hopefully, you know, I think most of the players from this performance can actually build from it, and it can maybe build up a little bit of a buzz in Manchester on a training ground. They look like they have a lot of fun anyway with their winning team picks all the time. So it's just about getting that confidence run, because he's a confidence player, and he's definitely a confidence player. He's always been like that. and getting his confidence back up. And it was actually quite brave of Ralph to actually put him on today, especially with the kind of flack that Rashford's taken, and he gets a goal. So, on one hand, it makes Ralph look like the all-seeing manager that knew everything that was going to be all right. And on the other side, it's good for Rashford that he's got a goal. So long may it continue.
I think with Rashford, you have to kind of look at things in a little bit of context, I suppose. And I know this is kind of veering away from football slightly, but just think of the amount that's gone on in his life over the last 18 months, right? When you talk about, obviously, all of his work off the pitch and obviously all the scrutiny that comes with that. You talk about what happened with him at the Euros. You talk about his injuries. He played basically an entire season with a bad shoulder and a bad ankle that he needed to get fixed, but he powered through for the betterment of the team. And then he comes back early from that injury as well. So you don't know necessarily how fully fit he is. And then you've got this chaos going on at the club. It's a lot. I mean, it really is a lot. And kind of what James touched on, maybe that's when you do go to the sports psychologist. And I said this before, and I'm not just saying this to someone that did my degree in psychology, but people think like when you go to a sports psychologist, you're just sitting on the red couch and laying backwards and sort of telling your problems. It's not necessarily that. It's how can I improve my performance? How can I be more confident in games? How can, if I am playing badly or I am making a few mistakes, how can I bounce back from that and not just completely capitulate, all that kind of stuff? And maybe that's what it is with Rashford as well. Like, there is way more pressure on Marcus Rashford than there was 18 months ago, because he's just, the aura of Marcus Rashford is far bigger and the attention is far bigger. Maybe that's when you talk to Cristiano Ronaldo and just say, look, there's a lot more scrutiny on me right now. How did you deal with that? Or what did you do? How did you get through that? What's your kind of mentality? So I think Ralph handled it really well. I'm really glad that not only did Rashford come on, but he got his goal. Would I start him at the weekend? I probably wouldn't, to be honest with you. I would probably say, you know what, Elanga, you've still got that spot. Marcus, great that he came on and got a goal, but you're still delicate. Because if he starts at the weekend and he's poor for 45, 60 minutes, bang, people are right back on him. Rashford's still playing poor, this, that, and the other. Just you ease him in. That's what I just say. Ease him in at the moment. Couple of super chats here. Pablo says, question, guys, why do fans scapegoat players and not actually support the team? See a lot of hate for Fred and McTominay. We have worse players at the club. We talk about the board being weak, but they seem to react to fan agendas. We need a destroyer in the midfield desperately. I mean, I think my opinion, we'll pass it around, but my opinion on that is, I think a lot of fans, and I can be guilty of it myself, can be quite reactionary. You can be quite reactionary, and you can see people take things out on certain players. That's just like how it is. I don't know. Things just kind of have a weird way of manifesting themselves, don't you? And I don't think anyone can hold their hands up and say that when Man United is playing well, that everyone's just completely like, yes, everything's great. People get angry. We're humans. I don't think it's fair, a lot of the criticism. And I think that you look at Manchester United's performances this season, you could absolutely pass a lot of criticism equally around to a lot of players, not just Fred and McTominay. And they probably do get too much. And especially when you, like I said, look at the options we have at the club, there aren't many. And there's no way that they don't try their best for Manchester United. And I know that's the minimum. But I agree with you. I think sometimes the agenda's a bit too much. What do you think about that, DJ? The hate for Fred?
Yeah. The thing is, in a perfect world, and it's not me being disrespectful to them, in a perfect world, they are not Manchester United starting, because we've been spoilt, for some fans that can remember and who are old enough, we've been spoilt with some great midfield talent over the years. So anyone that comes in that doesn't even resemble that remotely, we're going to have something to say. And football is probably the only sport in the UK where your emotions are so invested, like literally so invested. And it's not to put down any other sport, but football, the amount of emotion and stress that goes into it as a fan, whether you're winning or losing, is top level. So you're right. A lot of us do become reactionary. I am Mr. Reactionary sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, get him out of the club after one game. I am that guy. I am, and I would admit that. But after, when you've had a time to calm down and you really evaluate it, you realize that actually you're right, Owen. Like, there's a human element to this. Footballers have lives too. They must have pressures, especially when they've got 60,000, 70,000 fans booing them or ridiculing them. So it's going to take an effect. So for me with McFred, I've actually sort of like championed them in a sense of, I'm actually surprised how they've dealt with the pressure. Because as you can see, the mental aspect of it, like a lot of players would have crumbled by now. But McFred, especially Fred in particular, he carries on. Fred plays like no one said anything about him. He carries on like he can't hear it. I know he doesn't speak English fluently like that, but he probably doesn't care. He just carries on playing from game to game. So I think that's an admirable quality, to be fair.
Yeah, what do you think about James, about that? Like the McFred thing? Is it a case of fans being reactionary? I mean, my thought is as long as you don't cross the line as to get into like, personal or, what I mean, there's a line that you don't really cross. But what do you think about that when it comes to the McFred agenda, if you will?
The McFred agenda, but first of all, it probably started when a certain channel basically grouped them together as one player, right? Like rather than calling them McTominay and Fred, we just called them McFred because we just thought every fault was down to them, and it wasn't like one of them could be good and one of them could be bad. They were just both awful. They've got it. I think it's a very it can be true sometimes, but I also think it's a bit naive to just think that the only fault with Manchester United is the midfield. Like there's numerous reasons why we're poor on the pitch sometimes, and the midfield get more than their fair share of stick that they probably don't deserve that much stick, to be honest. But like DJ said, in an ideal world, do they start for Manchester United? Not really. Grew up watching Robbo, watching Keane, watching Scholes, watching Carrick, watching Hargreaves. Like I've watched a lot of good midfielders, right? I sit at the Stretford end, and that standards banner got put across with Robbo and the other captains, and then that was put out after like a Maguire interview and whatever. And it does hit home sometimes, maybe how far we've fallen as a club, because I was born basically at the beginning of the Fergie era, so all I've known is basically us winning, coming second in the league, or competing for a cup every single year since 1988 till basically 2013 when it stopped. So there is that side of it. With the supporting thing and agendas, I'm probably different to a lot of people. I would never ever boo a player. I would never protest against a player or a manager or anything like that. It's just the way I've been brought up. I go in the ground, I go mad when I hear people booing and jeering. I just don't like it. Like that's my personal thing. Like if I was doing shit at my job, I'd want my boss to put an arm around me. I wouldn't want my boss to bollock me. That's just the kind of person that I am and how I react and how I think performance improves. Like if I'm Rashford and I'm struggling, I'm more likely to improve if people are like, come on, give me encouragement, rather than, oh, Rashford, you shit. Like that's just how I believe that the team will get better. If we're 1-0 down, I'd rather hear some support rather than booing. But however, Manchester United are going through a tough time. You can compare it to like a grievance, right? And like you would never tell anyone how to grieve. So how someone shows their emotion is up to them. If they choose to grieve through this time by booing or whatever, or being reactionary and emotional about a player, that's their choice in doing that. It's just not how I see things.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good actually discussion to have, that everyone kind of has their different kind of viewpoint on it. And I don't know about you, but I'm just always like, as long as, like I said, I think there's a line. As long as people don't cross it, people can, everyone's different. Everyone expresses things different. Everyone reacts to football games different. I mean, I'm one of those people. I mean, it's part of like how I have to go through when I do a match view, that I don't really react that much to games. Like I can be full on, like Rafa Benitez on the bench, we can score. I can be sat there like that. Inside I'm doing cartwheels, but that's just, that's how people react sometimes, isn't it? And cool. Said people are different. It's not just playing it cool. It's just sometimes I'm just too lazy. I can't even bother to get up to celebrate. I'm just like, no, actually, you know what? I'm all right. I'll save that energy. Ugly Bear says Rashford is 13th in the Manchester United all-time scoring record and is on course to smash Rooney's record. Marcus will be offered a new deal in the summer. I don't think, there always those discussions come up, and we've had them a couple of times here on the channel, of the whole like, oh, if you got offered this for Rashford, would you take it? All this kind of stuff. I mean, Rashford to me is up for lifer. I can't see him. I'd be stunned if he went anywhere. And like I said, I think it's just a case of there's a lot going on when it comes to Marcus Rashford. There's been a lot going on with him for the last 18 months, and just hit a bit of poor form. It happens. It happens with professional footballers. Finally, obviously, we've got West Ham at the weekend, DJ. We won't get into too much of a preview, but given tonight's performance and result, how are you feeling about that? Confident?
Just depends obviously. What Manchester. Yeah, just. I'm so I am. I said it a long time ago. I said that I do not trust these players. I don't, because one week they'll turn up and they give us that false sense of security, like, oh yeah, everything's great. Like, look what they did to Palace for 30 minutes, and we thought this is the beginning of the Rangnick era, and then it's just sort of capitulated since then. But West Ham, I'm gonna do you, Owen. I don't know.
Stealing my stuff.
Stealing
Stealing
your
my
material.
material. I'm rubbing off on you. James, how you feeling about the weekend? Is that, I mean, ultimately, it's the exact result we needed before West Ham. They're obviously having a good season. A couple of iffy results for them recently. I was surprised they lost to Leeds. How are you feeling about West Ham at the weekend?
Confident, mate. I'm always going to say I'm confident. It's just like in my blood. Do I think we'll win? Yeah, I do. I think it was vitally important for the 3 players that scored today to actually score. I think Greenwood, Elanga, and Rashford all could have done with a goal for their confidence and their growth. And I think they got it. So always good to see the young players, including Rashford, in that score. So yeah, I'm confident, mate. I think the one thing that benefited us today, actually, that might be slightly different on Saturday, is we were away from home. If we'd have had that first half performance in front of Old Trafford, you might have heard a few boos and a few jeers and stuff. And that's why I'm a big believer in supporting, because that second half performance probably doesn't come if you get booed off by your own fans at half time. Like, that's the way I see things. Whereas you couldn't really hit, like, the away fans are always going to cheer anyway. That's what the away fans do. Like, you can go have the most miserable performance and they'll cheer you off the pitch. That's what happens. Because you spend so much on your ticket, you can't help but do anything else, right? But it's like, at Old Trafford, I just think that it could get a little toxic if we'd have had a performance where we get overrun by like a West Ham team on Saturday. So I think I'm confident, but we need to start quicker. So we need to start like we had against Burnley or against Villa in the cup game, get an easy early goal, settle the crowd down a bit, and then I think we'll go on and win comfortably.
Yeah, like DJ, I mean, I don't know. I haven't even thought about it that much. I asked the question. I haven't really thought about it that much. It's just too far ahead. I mean, later on, I'll probably have a think about it. The day of, I'll probably get some messages of like, I don't know. I'm not a gambling man, so I don't even bother. Anyway, guys, look, that's it for us tonight. Flex has been interviewing people outside the Brentford Community Stadium, so I have no idea if they're even up yet, but they will be going up very soon. So stay tuned to the channel. I think KG on his channel, he's going to do a Peloton ride, then do 5 things deep. So he's getting his exercise in. He does it at crazy times as well.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, it's unbelievable. Good for him, honestly.
Good man.
I message him all the time. He doesn't message me back, but I message him all the time saying, well done, you're doing great. And I just need to take that advice myself. But KG's doing great. So I said that he's going to be doing 5 things deep on his channel. I think, DJ, are you going on IG Live, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go on IG Live. For those of you that want to continue talking about the game, maybe break down the West Ham game coming up, please, man, join me there. We can chat a little bit. Not for too long, though, because I'm tired.
Exactly. It's at DJ Talks _ if you want to follow him on Instagram. Anyway, guys, look, be sure to subscribe and smash a like, and we'll all speak for you again very, very soon. Peace.